What's up, guys? EJ Stewart here doing another edition of our Young Justice episode recap and review show. We're talking about episode 25 of season 4, Over and Out. This was a major episode with some big developments. Can't wait to get to it. Shamari joins us via audio as always. And Sham, this was just a monster episode. And for some Nightwing fans like myself, a little difficult to get through. Can't lie.
I can imagine. I was watching the episode. I'm like, oh boy, EJ's gonna have a lot to say about this.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, this is a big episode. This is a very big episode. A lot of, a lot of plot progression, a lot of Zod
Yes.
stuff. Any Superman fans, Zod fans, I'm sure would be very, very pleased. That I would assume with a lot of what they saw. This was really good. This is really, really good stuff. I think, I'm glad that it seems like Zod is becoming more used. Of course, I feel like some of that stuff kind of started with Man of Steel. And of course, you go back to the original Superman movies, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But with Man of Steel, kind of bringing that story back, and then Krypton, they also kind of brought the story in as well, and I thought that was done really well, and it's being really done really well here in this show as well. So it's it's really good. It's being done really well. It's showing really how dangerous evil Kryptonians are, and we've seen a lot of kind of evil Superman stories lately. But Zod is kind of the OG of in terms of seeing that story done and done well. So I think it's really being done well here.
Yeah, Zod, man, really coming through as a true, strong, big bad. And it's interesting how, like we talked about in previous episode, how Lord Zod had been such a major villain. But seeing, the older Zod, Drew Zod, kind of throw around his weight and kind of lay claim to Earth in the way he does, and the way they dismantle the team that includes, of course, the Justice League and the Legion so easily. Once again, kind of reemphasizing just how much of a badass this dude is, and he had a big episode in this, no question. So we got a lot to talk about on this episode. We gotta talk about Zod, not just Drew Zod, but Ursa Zod also had a pretty major development with her character as well. So there's a lot to get to there. I guess let's start with kind of where we left off. So the team was down bad on Trombus. After the Zods came through the boom tube, and with the help of Lorazad, he's able to establish their dominance and establish that he is there to free his parents and to free House Zod. He has come from the future, and he is kind of he's positioned to kind of prove that he's essentially a Zod, and he's forced to kind of give the Zod kind of house symbol or house kind of slogan that he had to deliver to them. It's a pretty crazy scene. They are on the red sun, so they do have to retreat rather quickly after Green Lantern Forager actually really comes through super clutch in that moment in time to at least get them out of the thralls of the Kaiser Thrall, or the Mother Thrall at this point, because it's a Mother Box combined with a Kaiser Thrall. Pretty epic scene to start this episode. What did you think of how they set everything up here?
Yeah, I thought it was a good way to set it up. We kind of knew that they had to. Laura Zod was probably going to do something to prove who he is.
Yes.
Because in general, it's a pretty unbelievable story. But he's able to do that, and still feel bad for the Kaiser Thrall and the boy in the Kaiser Thrall being forced to do what he's doing.
You thought he was coming back, but Danny Chase, we didn't see no sign of Danny Chase this week.
Yeah, no, and Mala Faak is still kind of the MVP. I guess he still has him under control. So,
No, he said that he couldn't keep that boom tube open and fight Forager. So talk about the strength of the Green Lantern Forager. That was pretty crazy to see, and I really like that, because I think Green Lantern sometimes gets kind of, because in some ways Green Lantern could be a little overpowered. I think a lot of times he kind of gets nerfed, or they get nerfed, depending on who it is, male, female, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that they were established here that no, Green Lantern is really strong, and that this particular Green Lantern and this Forager one has a willpower that is truly special. And I thought that that was a nice way to kind of do that, because so often we see that Green Lantern character or whoever's wielding the ring get nerfed because it's pretty immense power they would have. It's tough to really come up with threats for something as powerful as a Green Lantern ring.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Especially when Green Lantern is not a Green Lantern show.
Right.
Um, Green Lantern often gets shown as just someone that's kind of getting beat up, unfortunately.
Right.
um, but yeah, I did enjoy seeing that as well. That they weren't so helpless. And they were able to do something.
Yeah, and they were able to at least get them, like I said, out of the thralls of the Kaiser Thrall, and they are forced to retreat because if Green Lantern Forager got out of there, those are Red Sun Kryptonians. They would have been out. Like Lord's eyes, like, we got out of here. We do not have the strength to fight this. Motherfucker, I can't hold this person and keep this boom tube open. So they're forced to retreat. Druzad not necessarily all that happy with it, but he decides to trust his son. And I felt like where they end up taking them, Sham, was obviously very ironic, and it made sense as they sent them to the Fortress of Solitude on Earth. One, to kind of lay claim to the fortress of their villain, the House L in Superman, and two, to recharge and to get their energy back, so that Luz Lorzak says that his parents can get the powers of the yellow sun that Kryptonians usually enjoy. How did you feel about the focus shifting from Trombus quickly to the fortress as a setting for a lot of the major events in this episode?
I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was very. I mean, of course, very symbolic.
Yeah.
And I guess it kind of made you feel more for uh, Superman. I feel like it also kind of reinforces that this is very much a Superman villain, a
Yeah.
Superman story, um, and a Superboy story. As even you're showing now, we see the Superboy costume in the fortress as well. Both of his costumes, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, so yeah, I mean, I thought
You
it was,
notice, by the way, that when he eventually puts on clothes, he picks the Cadmus Superboy
yeah,
costume. And when we get to
yeah,
that part of his episode and began talking about how he had reverted back to essentially his Cadmus programming, this kind of that was a nice shot there to kind of confirm, hey, there's plenty of outfits for Superboy to pick from. He picked the one that it reminded him of where he's at in his life, and as we see, he thinks he's this Cadmus villain, this Cadmus weapon, essentially. And so that's why he picks that costume. But I thought that was very very symbolic, as you said.
yes, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it was very interesting. We don't see the fortress very often in this show. Um, I don't know. Have we seen the fortress before in Young Justice? Probably. I'm assuming.
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like at some point Connor must have, like, Superman must have sent Connor there at some point. At
Yeah,
some point we probably
I
have
would
seen
think
that,
so.
but that is a good point. I can't remember off the top of my head, like, when was the last time we saw the fortress.
Yeah, drop a
So
comment.
yeah, exactly. Of course, drop a comment in the comment
Uh,
section. But yeah, that's a good point. The fortress has not been explored very often, but like I said, it's a major point of this episode.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I enjoyed seeing the fortress in this episode. Um, and it was very cool, and it made sense when, of course, the pods come up that Lorzad knows about. I'm kind of shocked that he knew about those pods, but he knew about the pods and how to kind of get the
Yeah,
Zopter power and things like that as well.
yeah. He takes them to the solar pod so they can rejuvenate their strength, and it was kind of this has been so interesting because we talked about it last week. Like, Superman in this world, we get the impression he's been around for a minute. First of all, it's 10 years since we were introduced to the team. So He'd already been Superman even before
Yep.
the first episode of Young Justice for a little while because there was a Justice League.
Yep.
So this is like, again, still very fascinating. Like, this is Superman, like, who's been around for a minute. He's seen a lot, and this is his first encounters
Yep.
with the Zods. This is the first encounters with ever seeing anyone that's from Krypton that's not him or not a clone. Um, it's funny. I watched the episode last week. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where they kind of mentioned, about how the elves had, there was two kids that there was a, Superman's uncle also had a kid, but there was a girl. So Supergirl in theory could also be in this world, but we haven't seen
Mm-hmm.
Supergirl. So there's like, it's very funny because the Batman world, if you think about it, Sham, like we've seen a lot. Like Jason
Yep.
Todd has died. We had multiple. We're on the third Robin. There's a spoiler who may have been Robin at some point. We don't know. There's Cassandra. Like Batman. It feels like his story, based on kind of where the comics are in the lineage, is gone on a lot further than Superman has, even though they've been around for the same time. What do you make kind of how they've juxtaposed that? I think that's very fascinating.
Yeah, it's very interesting that the Bat family is very far along, like really far along. Um, like Barbara's Oracle and everything, right?
Yes, Barbara's
Like
Oracle. That's another good one. Yeah,
Oracle. I
and she
mean, the
was
Bat
and she
family.
was Batgirl in season
Yeah,
two.
and she was Batgirl. Like they were really far along in, I guess the history of Batman lore and the Bat family story. They're very, very far along. And with Superman, um, I mean, Superman has other villains, of course. I mean, there's Luthor. We know that him and
Yeah,
Luthor have gone
yeah,
at it.
we've seen
You
their
know,
beef.
I don't know if Doomsday's been involved at all. I don't know if, of course, there's other more minor ones like Toyman and others. Um, but Zod is a very major Superman villain. So it's pretty shocking that Zod, he had never encountered Zod before. You would think that he would have, but I mean, it's certainly not inconsistent with anything, as far as I know. Um, I'm trying to think back to, because of course I haven't seen the first season in quite a while, but
Yeah,
I don't know how he reacted to Connor at first. I know he was shocked.
he was very distant. If you remember, he was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he kind of didn't want to really embrace him. It was kind of like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
yeah,
For
yeah,
for sports fans who
yeah,
like he was like, oh, you should really embrace this guy. Like he's part you, and technically he's Kryptonian. At least he has Kryptonian DNA. But a lot of Clark's wariness was that he knew that he was also part Luthor, and he didn't trust Connor essentially.
right, right,
And why would you? I mean, somebody's been cloned to be you, and or at least be an answer to you. It made sense that Kal-El wouldn't just like leap to be this guy's mentor, but and we see a little bit of that in actually this season because there's that bus scene, those bus flashbacks we keep seeing throughout history. One of them
hmm
is him and Connor like saving that bus, and
yeah,
he's kind of very harsh on Connor's attempts to save the people, and in terms of like the strategy he uses. I think he thought he was too reckless. So there wasn't a very good relationship at all. That the relationship builds over time, which is why, like I
mm,
said earlier, this season one of my favorite episodes was seeing Clark grieving Connor's death in Smallville, because it was such a big departure from the relationship that we saw in season one between Connor and between Clark.
yes, yeah. So yeah, I mean, like you said, it's understandable because Superboy isn't from Krypton. So I guess
Right.
this is it would seem that this is the first interaction that Superman's having with people that are from Krypton, that remember
Yes.
Krypton, grew up on Krypton, where that is their home world. Um, so
And he said
yeah,
this was. He said like I mean that conversation with Black Lightning was excellent. I mean he's like, this
yeah,
is
it
what I
was.
dreamed about my entire life, and
Yes.
now it may be like the end of Earth basically that this is
Yeah.
happening. Like that was obviously very deep, and how he had to now compartmentalize what was going on with all that matters is I gotta help Connor, which again reinforces how far their relationship has come to where something that is this big he has to try to move on from very quickly and say that's not important. One, because these people are crazy, but two, Connor's in danger. Connor's messed up. I gotta save my brother. That is Superman's having a really good arc. I tell you what, like to me, we could have the conversation about Nightwing. Like this feels almost more like a Superman arc to me, to be honest. Like
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like we're dealing with his odds. Like Superman is dealing with all this grief and things he's trying to figure out now that there are Kryptonians that are alive that are pulling up on Earth, and Nightwing is not around for a lot of this episode. He has a pretty big moment in this episode, but he doesn't. He's not around for the most of it. So I guess let's get to that big part before we even get to the team kind of returning to Earth. So so the team that we know, of course, the Young Justice team, that's Nightwing, Aquaman, and Zatanna, and Rocket, and Artemis. They're all fighting in the Phantom Zone. Nightwing realized immediately, look, like we gotta figure out what the hell is on the other side of this boom tube. So maybe it's best as one of us like leaves to go help out, because maybe it's friends, maybe it's foes, I don't know, but we gotta see where these Kryptonians could be going if we end up, leaving them, which was obviously smart. So he leaves the boom tube, and he realizes very quickly, oh, they don't look very good, and he is now pretty much locked into a fight with Kryptonians while the Zods are in the parent Zods are in the tube. By the way, I thought one of my favorite shots from this, I'm trying to see if I can pull it up, was with the Zods in that chamber with the Batarang being thrown at the chamber before it explodes. The artwork on that is just beautiful. I'll probably toss it to you to pull it up. But we have this fight scene is Lord-Zod versus Nightwing. This does not end very well for Nightwing, as I think we all should have expected. Lord-Zod is a Kryptonian. Nightwing is just a human. He's a lovable human, but he is just a human. And he ends up being thrown into the kind of the memorial to Superman's parents, and that globe comes crashing down. And to our eyes, it appears that Nightwing, quote unquote, dies. Like I said, that globe falls on top of Nightwing. Lord-Zod then tries to hear the heartbeat. He says that there is no more heartbeat, and therefore Nightwing is dead. So, Sham, I'll just ask you the question plain and simple. Do you believe Nightwing is indeed dead?
So, I mean,
a lot of hemming and hawing, so I don't know.
Your initial reaction has to be no, because I mean, you're gonna have Lord-Zod just throw him into a joint, and then the joint falls on him, and that's how he dies. And and it's not like the Zods he saved them from getting their power. He didn't save them. He died. Now Wally didn't. I mean, I think Wally's death was. I mean, he died. In I guess in a very heroic fashion.
Right.
This death is, I mean, it's still heroic, but it's also it's a little unnecessary, and it didn't have as much of an impact,
Right.
So it's kind of unfortunate. It would be unfortunate if he died this way. I'm also wondering, what if he can be resuscitated, if he can be, if is he okay? His heart stopped beating, but can they do the, are there any speedsters that can maybe where were they? That was it at the fortress? Blah blah blah. Can someone go over there? Maybe kind of shock him back or something? Can they do anything? To bring him back? I mean, I don't know. Your gut says no. But then you're kind of like, oh, it's not looking good. I mean, everybody else so there's the team on the ship that was heading over, but then there's also the team on the bus, and then there's also questions about Rocket, which I'm sure we'll get to as well. So I don't know. It's not looking good, but for now I'm going to say no. that, or that if he is, that maybe there's some kind of resuscitation or something that can be done.
Yeah, so I do not think he's dead. For one, I'll say he better not be dead. I'll just make that very clear, in my opinion, because this would it be a realistic death? Sure, like Kryptonian throwing somebody and crushing them. Like, yeah, that could absolutely happen. But like someone as important to the show as Nightwing absolutely cannot go out like this. And I don't think he is. I don't think he is. I think that if they really made that his death, that would be, I think, a move for pure shock value that would not work. I know I'm the resident Nightwing fan on this pod/YouTube video, but that just to me would be unacceptable. I don't think he's died. He's dead for a couple of reasons. Number one, like I said, I think it would be dumb. I can't. I think that Weissman and Vietti and the crew, like, and Weissman wrote this episode, I believe. They would treat a Nightwing death with way more care than that. Like, you think about the death, the other death we had, like I said, you mentioned Wally, like, that was a lot more emotional, a lot more, and or even Connor earlier this year. Like, there was a lot more to it. Like, those deaths ended the episodes for the most part, or at least, the next thing we saw after Wally was like a memorial. So if this is how they kill off Nightwing, that would be, again, to me, unacceptable. Number two, I think that this is also a clear callback to season 2. Because if you remember your other quote-unquote fake death, it involves Artemis. And with Artemis, of course, Aqualad stabs Artemis when he's, playing the Aquabad character, working with his pops. What's the name? I can't remember his name. Black Manta.
Black Man.
And remember, it's Connor who pulls up and is like, oh, I don't hear a heartbeat. So that's not good. So, like, if you go back to that callback, that's a Kryptonian who's thinking I can now tell people are alive by listening to their heartbeat and being wrong. And Nightwing, remember, was actually 100% involved with that fake death. Like, he was in on it. So, because they were doing like a big undercover mission. So I get the impression that Nightwing probably had the training that Artemis had to slow their heartbeat enough to where they think that where people who can listen to heartbeats don't think that they're alive. I think he faked his death. Now, the only thing that kind of like combats that is, there's like blood streaming from his head, which doesn't look all that good. But that would be my theory is that he is alive and that he's faked his death. He may be hurt, but I don't think he's dead.
Was there like a drug involved with the Artemis one? Did she inject herself, or did they inject her with something? Or
that's a great question. I don't actually remember, but that's a great question.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, because I feel like there was something else, like they had her do something or take something or something. If it was just training, then I think it's possible. But this was so spontaneous, like he didn't know what
right.
was going on.
Right. That's the thing too, is that like how would you even be ready to like
he's just ready to fake death at any moment.
I mean, heartbeat I could see. Now if there's a drug involved, then yeah, like that would seem to be impossible.
I mean, I don't know. The Bat family, they're all ninjas, so I mean,
I know.
don't know.
Yeah, they could do it all. Like,
I mean, theoretically, they can do almost anything. So
yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, is it possible? Probably. But those are real injuries, as we can see. I mean, he was really thrown into that thing.
Yeah, he's really under a bunch of like ice boulders,
and those rocks and boulders really fell on him. So it's not looking good. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say he's probably alive, but it's not looking good. And even if he is alive, another thing I have to say is he's still not safe by any means. I think he.
What do you mean he's not safe? He
can still like die later of his injuries. Like if he's sent to the hospital or something like that.
Gotcha.
He's still a character that can be killed off as well.
Interesting. I really hope not. And I feel like what I will say is if he does survive, and if we also get a season 5, then Vietti and Weissman, like Like they
They
owe
got they
us.
got buff Nightwing.
Yeah, they owe us a real Nightwing story. Like they owe us one because this is it. Look, the show is fantastic. This was riveting television, but this has been terrible for Nightwing fans. And I don't mean terrible as in terrible quality, just terrible
Right.
in terms of character euphoria. You're seeing them go through this. Like you thought you were gonna get a full Nightwing arc. Like so, those other characters, like I said, maybe with the exception of Zatanna, which we talked about. Those other characters, like you really felt like you really explored like they're a lot of like who they are as people, and let
Right.
alone the great stories that came along with it.
Right.
Like this has not been that. This has been we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived about this being a Nightwing arc. This is just an arc to close the whole show. So it's been great. It's been fun. I can't say fun. It's been again entertaining and riveting. But if we do get another season, then we are owed a Nightwing story. And if this is how he dies, then this is awful. I really hope that that is not the case.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't think he's dead. If he is dead, then yeah, I'd probably agree. I'd be like, I don't know. I think they could have done better than this. I don't think this is gonna do them any favors in terms of them trying to get another season.
Yeah.
If they were to kill Nightwing like this, I'd be like, oh boy, are they running out of ideas? Are they trying to just kill people off? Like you said, just for shock value.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know that Nightwing dying like this here would serve much of a purpose. So I don't know. So I doubt it. I doubt he's dead.
Yeah, I think it's a way to hold the audience. I think you'll likely have probably a big maybe I might sound crazy next week. I have to say this now. I think you have a big Nightwing return, and he will probably be the person that ends up tipping the scales, which is why it'll in their eyes they'll feel like it will be warranted to call this a Nightwing arc.
And
I would
the
think that
Nightwing arc, right?
yeah, I would think that that is BS. But that's I think is how they would pitch it to us. But yeah, I seem to lean that he's alive, but as you said, this doesn't look good. It does not look good at all. So let's get to the other, uh, if you want to call it death, whatever you want to call it, what happened with Rocket. So, the team they're fighting in the Phantom Zone and fighting in a Boom Tube. This was also some really good art, like seeing them go from Boom Tube to regular art to non Boom Tube. That stuff was like legit, like really cool. Um, and here is them fighting one of Zod's lieutenants. Now they're in color because they realize that the boom tube has more of the qualities of a normal dimension, so they can actually touch people and fight people and use their powers. Aquaman was able to pick up on that, but during this, uh, they're kind of hit on both sides because you got the Kryptonians coming from one side, and then you have the Lord Zod himself coming from the other side. And Rocket is kind of put in the position to have to kind of protect the team from both of these entities hitting them on both sides in the boom tube. They realize that the boom tube is collapsing, and that's what Malafar kept trying to tell the Zods that like, yo, y'all like this, like you can't just keep a boom tube open just like forever. Like that's just not a thing. Like it's gonna eventually collapse. And then of course the question becomes, well, what happens when you're in a boom tube that collapses? And none of us really know that answer. So it kind of led to a tough situation because they're being attacked. Lord Zod is forced to retreat only by his dad. Otherwise, he would have been stuck in that boom tube, and that would have been it for him. But they, as a team, they try to escape the boom tube. Zatanna finds a way out again, kind of showing once again that her magic is like just on another level. That you could just
Right.
they could leave a boom tube through the through the emergency exit. I'm like, okay, that's something I've never seen before. But again, speaking to her strength, but one of the things that is prevalent though is that they leave this boom tube without Rocket. And Rocket, she says, "Hey man, don't worry, I'm right behind you guys." But they get to the other side, and Rocket is not with them. And it's weird because it looks like Rocket walks out with them when you see the shot again. I just watched the episode where we shot this, but she's not with them in that bus in Metropolis. So where is Rocket? What happened to Rocket? I pose the question to you, Sham. What is the deal? What do you think happened? It was also interesting that they ended the episode in terms of the end credits with the toy trucks and toy buses that
Yeah.
Rocket's kid plays with. They didn't end with anything with Nightwing. They did end that with that, which I thought was intentional, clearly. So what do you make of all this?
I think Rocket could be dead.
Mm.
Which I hope she's not dead. I'm just because like why would they introduce this character and give this character this bigger role in this season just to kill her? It's like
Yeah.
what? Like come on now. So I think she could be dead. I wouldn't like that, but I think she could be dead. I think she may have a bigger chance of being dead than Nightwing. For several reasons. Of course, he's not as big of a DC character as Nightwing at this point in time. So, I mean, it is what it is in that regard. And though I do also think she could theoretically be anywhere. I mean, Boom Tube Collapse. I don't know where that sends you or what that does. I think it's possible she's dead. I think it's possible that she is disappeared. Um, Kind of not so different from Wally, I guess, in that she's gone, but no one has any idea about the physics of where she may have gone. So she's effectively dead, kind of thing. Where like, I mean, I guess theoretically they could be alive somewhere, but we have no idea. It's like someone that's missing. You're just presuming them dead because they're nowhere to be found. So I think that's another situation that could go on with Rocket, and I think that's very possible. My hope is that she's alive and that she'll just pop up somewhere. But I don't know. These stories it's kind of dark, so I think that's a pretty low probability.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we haven't had like a teammate death, a real death in a while now. Like if you really think about it, like we had
Yeah.
Wally way back in season 2, and we've had some false starts. We had or season 1 rather. What? Yeah, season 1, season 2, at the end of season 2. Well, then we've had some false starts. We had Artemis in season 2. We had Connor in this season, and we had a million with Violet in the last season, and then we have and now we have this with potentially with Nightwing. We don't know. So there hasn't really been a true death. So I don't know if the team over at Young Justice, if they're getting a little bloodthirsty, maybe they're like, oh, we got to add some stakes here to these missions. They could be. Again, I think that she will. My thought is that she'll be in some other dimension, and that she's not dead, but that her powers combined with trying to leave a Boom Tube the way she did, I think that probably screwed with just kind of, she probably just wasn't able to leave the way they were able to leave, and I think she may end up being in a totally different dimension, and that may end up being a whole story in itself. So that's now 2 for 2 for me, but I'm gonna say that she also isn't dead, but man, I mean, again, it is getting pretty intense with some of these characters and their situation. I do want to go back to Ursa Zod and the stuff happening in the Fortress, because like I said, there was a pretty major development with Ursa Zod. As Lord Zod continues to try to say, look, everybody just like calm down, like just be patient, everything will go as planned. We see that these Zods are very stubborn. They don't want to listen to young Zod, who's trying to tell them how to get by, so to speak. Even though he's from the future and has this great knowledge that they don't have, but again, they are Zods, so that's not to be surprised. And in this moment, we see a transition for Ursa Zod. She that rage seems to extract the eye that Lord Zod is possessed of, the powerful mystical weapon, and she becomes Emerald Empress in this scene. It's a pretty wild scene to see happen. Emerald Empress, of course, is a Legion of Superheroes arch villain, a leader of the Fatal Five, and just more bad news for our compadres here on this in this show, as now they have another major villain to deal with, along with House Zod, and any of the support that they're getting from Apocalypse. So, what did you think, kind of how this played out, Shan, with Emerald Empress being introduced in this way?
I thought it was cool. I mean, it was definitely definitely thrown in very unexpected. Um, I haven't seen the Emerald Empress in quite a while. Of course, you watched various animated
Yeah,
DC shows, so thrown in various different things, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Um, it just adds more power, to the already kind of very beefed up, buffed up, Zod villain group. Uh,
I had forgot that Lord Zod had taken the Eye of Ekron from the Infinity Vault. I forgot he even had it.
yeah, I didn't register for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean that's pretty crazy. But yeah, so I mean this is yet another wrinkle that that the team's gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, they have to deal with it in a major way because they try to pull up on the fortress, and they think, well, what's the name's like, hey, like Bioship, he can get past all your Kryptonian measures to see when there's people incoming, so you'll be fine. Like we can pull up on them and attack, but again, Emerald Empress makes her presence felt, and immediately they are attacked, and they are all down, and you kind of get this surreal moment in the fortress or outside the fortress where you have the team down. You have Superman meeting General Zod for the first time. You have Zod trying to get Superman to join his situation, his call to action. It's
Hmm.
again, it's the best word I can use is it's kind of just a whole surreal situation. What was your feeling on just how this all set up?
Yeah, I mean it's like you said, like you were saying earlier, it's very much kind of like a Superman story,
Yeah,
or I mean that's kind of how it felt. A lot of Superman, Zod, um, just getting flashbacks to all the other interactions we see between Superman and Zod, and you feel bad for Superman, you feel bad for Superboy, who is just basically he's really back in Cadmus, like he's back in just Cadmus mode, where he's just uh,
yeah,
been brainwashed again. So it's which Miss Martian confirms because she said she's been in his head. So it's crazy. It's crazy to see. It's sad to see. Um, but yeah, at least it's very intense scenes later on in an intense cliffhanger for the episode.
yeah. And it's funny. I talked about it. I don't know if it was last week or a couple of weeks ago. I said that like I feel like this, like the way they set everything up, like this team was kind of in need of an L. Like they were due for an L, and like it just feels like they take just a massive L in this episode. So like I said, they take Emerald Empress easily takes down Bioship. The whole team is spattered. They're not in good shape. They then decide to take their talents to Metropolis. How Zod introduces themselves, and we're left, like you said, with that massive cliffhanger of Superboy rather, being ordered to kill Superman, essentially on live television for the whole world to see, and for House Zod to kind of make their presence felt. It is a extremely dramatic end to this episode. How did you just feel how the cliffhanger left everything?
Yeah, I mean it is a crazy cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Um, you're wondering if Superboy is gonna do it. Um, you know, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Um, and so, well, not a couple of questions. I do have one question, but I also have a theory. Um, so one of the questions I have is what does the light um
Hmm.
feel about? Do they have any sense about all? I know Malafa'ak is here because he's very afraid of Darkseid.
Right.
I mean, is Darkseid aware of Lord Zod's like plan when it comes to Earth? I guess he's cool with this.
So
Um,
that's a good point. We know Apocalypse is. I don't think they care because my
right,
alpha. They know that Lord Zod's plan is to release Drew Zod and all them folks and take over Earth, and that
right,
again he makes the same pat with Zod that he makes with Savage. So that's why I
right,
think the light part of this is actually maybe more relevant than the Apocalypse side of it.
right,
I
right,
don't
right,
think Darkseid really cares. He's probably happy that they'll
right.
kill Superman. Like he doesn't care about that. I think Savage wants Earth. He believes he's the Alpha.
Yeah.
So how he feels about this may actually end up being more relevant. And I think that probably leads to probably one of your theories that you want to bring up,
Yeah. So
or at
I was
least maybe more
wondering
questions. Yeah.
I was wondering what the light feels, how the light feels about this. I would think that there would be some kind of light interference in this
Yeah.
finale of some kind. Um, so that's one thought that I was having, one theory, I guess, possibly that I was having, that the light was going to interfere with whatever's going on here, um, uh, on some level. And another theory I have is that um, the outsider team is going to interfere or try to interfere somehow. Of course, we had that Brion episode,
Yeah,
Brion
that's true.
slash Violet episode. Still don't really know why they had that episode. If they show up in the finale, that would explain quite a bit. We know boom tubes have been used a lot in these past few episodes. Rocket is disappeared. We don't know where she is, partially because of a collapsed boom tube. Maybe Halo can kind of try to find out where she is. Maybe get her back from wherever she is. Maybe they can go in and maybe do something about these, Kryptonians. I mean, at this point is a planet wide issue.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
really,
This is as big a ringing of the alarm as there needs to be.
yeah, this is a planet
Earth
wide
is in
issue.
grave
So
danger right now.
this isn't just America. This is like
Right.
Markovia. This is
Right. Yeah.
everywhere. Everywhere is in danger. If these
Yeah.
Zods, these rogue Kryptonians take over. So the Justice League is already on alert, but is everybody else on alert? I mean, there are other heroes. We know there are other heroes in this world that you know would be able to jump in and fight. I'm sure not all of them are going to be, maybe not around, maybe not available, but some of them should be. So
Right.
I would expect that this finale could include a lot of people that we had seen previously in this season that haven't been included in this particular fight yet. So
I
that's
mean,
another prediction I have.
that makes a lot of sense. I didn't really think about that until you brought it up. But I mean, I agree. You would think the light might not really be down with a lot of this. I also think about the Lords of Order and Chaos. I mean,
Yes.
we didn't. That has been maybe the most overarching storyline of this whole season,
Hmm.
and I would assume they would think that someone like Zod maybe is an agent of Order. Um, but I don't know. He's kind of also ensuing chaos. Like it can kind of go either way. So that whole situation could end up being a factor in what's going on. You mentioned the outsiders. You mentioned the light. I don't know how they're gonna figure out this whole thing in 22 minutes. Like I'm very curious if this is going to be an extended episode to end the season. I'm trying to remember what they did last time. I don't think it was though. Man, forgive me if you're in the comment section. I'm wrong about that. But that's going to be something to probably explore because they got to figure out what happened with Rocket, what happened with Nightwing, who's going to come into, one, is Superboy going to do it? I don't think he is. I think that, to be honest, it's interesting. I wonder if Lex Luthor is actually the one who comes in and stops Connor from killing Superman. Because remember, like, if he's back to his cabinet's programming, then Lex Luthor would be someone who could, say Red
Mm.
Sun and shut him down, in theory. Like, I wonder if he even, cause, like, they're kind of billing it as, oh, Connor's going to have to make a quote unquote choice, even though we know he's been brainwashed. So, how much choice does he really have? And this could be where the light comes in and stops him from doing something terrible. And that could be kind of what his story kind of continues on as, in terms of him trying to figure out, again, if we get more seasons, like I was right there and I was gonna kill Superman if it wasn't for this terrible person who stopped me. Like is it really that easy for me to turn back into the weapon? That could be a storyline that he continues. Like I said, Nightwing could come in and save the day. It could be Rocket that comes in and saves the day. But you are right that this is becoming such a big issue that you would think other parties would have some major say in this. So I agree. So this was wild episode. This was crazy, no doubt. A little disappointing if you're a Nightwing fan for how things went about, but I think our boy will be okay. So that being said, I think we should give scores here. So where are you gonna give this episode over and out, episode 25 of season 4?
So me, this gets a 9 out of 10. I think this might be my second 9 out of 10 in a row, but this gets a 9 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
Yeah, this is a very good episode. A lot of action, which of course is what I want. A lot of plot progression, a lot of twists, a lot of turns. Crazy, 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 crazy episode. A lot of cliffhangers, unanswered questions. Definitely worthy of a penultimate Young Justice episode. I am just looking forward to seeing where things go, what answers we get. So it did everything, pretty much everything that I would want. So to me, it gets a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I will give this episode also. I'll give it 8.5. I'll give it an 8.5. It's a very action-packed, big episode. A lot happens. It almost feels like too much happens, where I almost wonder if they're even able to tie up a lot of these loose strings. Like again, Empress is now a thing. Like how does that get straightened out? Again, what's get straightened out with Nightwing? What gets straightened out with Rocket? Do the light come into play? It just seems like there's no way we're gonna get all of our answers in this season, which is why I'm very curious for a creative team that claims that they have no word about getting another season. I feel like this season is gonna end with some kind of cliffhanger. Like I don't think everything's gonna be necessarily resolved, and they are. To be fair, they do have a comic book coming out that's supposed to continue this story. I do wonder, will we get in a situation where if we don't get a new season, we're kind of gonna be stuck in no man's land, not wondering what the hell is gonna happen next. So this was a major episode. Again, a lot of it was tough to see. Tough to see a lot of our favorite heroes down like this. But the setback only kind of precedes the comeback, you would hope, and maybe this will all get straightened out. But this was definitely an intense episode. I can't say I enjoyed it. It was very difficult, but it was definitely dramatic and well executed. So I will give this episode a 8.5 out of 10. But that's gonna do it for this edition of our Young Justice. I almost said Nightwing episode recap review. I wish it was a Nightwing episode. Our Young Justice episode recap and review. Of course, thanks to Sham for joining us as always. Of course, if you like this episode, make sure you leave us a comment in the comment section. Give us a like as well if you did indeed like this episode. And if you like this content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. We'll be doing one more Young Justice episode recap and review next week. So make sure you guys are subscribed and ready to check us out with that. Shamari will be back. Kendall is expected to be back as well. I know he did a lot of these episodes with me, so it should be a big party. Can't wait to do it next week. But thank you guys so much for checking this out. For EJ, I'm EJ. For Shamari, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.